The Day of a Toxicologist by Joel, Mackenzie, Jordana, and Juliana.
Hello, Boston Toxicology Office. How may I help you? What? There's been a death? And you need me to figure out how they died? I'm on my way.
We have now arrived at the scene. As a part of the crime scene investigation team, my job is to figure out how he died. As a toxicologist, we do this by taking blood and tissue samples from the body, which we use later in the lab to conduct our tests. Let's see what we're working with here. Oh, would you look at that? Look at the clammy skin, reddish face, and blue tint to the lips. Toxicologists don't only collect blood samples, We also get physical and photographical evidence from the crime scenes. We can analyze DNA, saliva, blood splatter, anything like that. We can also testify in a court of law on behalf of our findings. Now that we're back from the crime scene, we can start figuring out what really happened here. I have a victim's blood, and we are just going to squirt that into the 2 containers. Now, for this first blood sample, we are going to conduct an immunoassay screening, and these are tests designed to detect whether or not a sample is positive or negative for a targeted drug. Now, I have a hunch from the victim's clammy skin, reddish tint around the face, and bluish lips that he overdosed on an opioid. And if I had to choose my best guess, I'm going to say fentanyl. Next test we're going to do is a chromatography detection. And this will help us separate the blood and separate the compound and drug to see what exactly this man overdosed from. I'm going to go test these samples and then I'll come back with the results. Using the chromatography technique, we are going to figure out what drug this man overdosed on by comparing it to other well-known opioid samples. For example, heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and medications like oxycodone. This will help us determine what drug he really overdosed. I'm going to put a sample of each of the 5 popular opioids along with a blood sample of the victim. And then we are going to run the machine and it'll tell us which is a match for which. The computer program takes those signals, interprets them, and puts them into a chart. From that chart, we can see which is a match for the opioid and the blood sample. Here are the results from the chromatography sample. Right here you can tell it's fentanyl, and here is the blood sample. All these other opioids we tested were not apparent. That way, we can tell from this that fentanyl was the cause of death. Now that we know that he overdosed on fentanyl, we are going to use a biochemical test to determine how much fentanyl this man ingested. So, we are going to do this by using the blood sample from our immunoassay, and then we are going to isolate particular molecules and proteins to figure out the concentration of the fentanyl in the body. Now that we have all our test results back, we can finally put all the pieces together and figure out what happened. So our physical report says he had a needle mark, blue lips, reddish face, and clammy hands, and there were cigarettes and needles all around the room. Our chemical report found that there were 3.7 milligrams of fentanyl in his body. That's almost twice the lethal amount. And from our other tests, we can tell that he overdosed on. I think this case is closed. Now the last step is just writing up an official death certificate. And here it is, the official certificate of death. And that concludes today's case. Thanks for coming along with me to find out more about the day in the life of a toxicologist. The end.